Now, the transmissible spongiform encephalopathy in the bovines. Bovines, as you know already, that there are different kind of the animals. We call them bovine, we call them ovine, we call them swines, and similarly, there are we have the different species of the animals. We call them different names. The bovines spongiform encephalopathy. The encephalopathy which is caused in the cattle is called the bovine. Similarly, if it's caused in the sheep and goat, it will be called as the sheep and goats are called the ovines. Equines are called the horses, and swines are the pigs and some similar kind of the animals. So for the bovine spongiform encephalopathy, we will see the etiology, we will see its different signs and symptoms and how the disease is transmitted from one animal to another animal. Of course, the etiology, the cause of the disease are the prions. Again, the prions are some kind of the proteins which can cause the disease, and it affects the nervous system. The spongiform encephalopathies most of the times are always affecting the nervous system. This is also called mad cow syndrome. It was the very common disease, it was a very famous disease just a few years ago. There was a big news in the newspapers about the mad cow syndrome. The mad cow disease, there were about thousands of the animals were destroyed by the Australia and there are some other countries because of the mad cow syndrome. What is the mad cow disease? Of course, as we already discussed, it is the disease of the cattle because it's called the bovine spongiform encephalopathy, and bovines are the cattle. So this is the sign and symptoms. The cattle will looks like in this way, in the form of the bovine spongiform encephalopathy. The nervous system, the nervous signs and symptoms, we will see them in detail. BSc, bovine spongiform encephalopathy, shows the spongy appearance of the brain. Of course, the brain tissue has been affected because of this disease, because it will the neurological disease. That's after the disease, the brain will show us the spongiform appearance of the brain and the tissue of the infected cattle, where the sections of the examined under the microscope, it will show us the spongy appearance. That's why it is called the spongiform and then the encephalopathy. This is the cross section, which is clear from here that how the brain will show after the under the microscope. The sign and symptoms is very common sign and symptom. The neurological signs, the nervous system signs are very important. Of course, the apprehension is most important. Excessive salivation we already studied because of the nervous system problems. The excessive salivation will always there. Hyperesthesia is one of the most important sign for the bovine spongiform encephalopathy. And then the frequent licking with progressive paresis and ataxia. Progressive paresis is also very important for BSc, and the ataxia is always there because of the nervous system problem. Circling in different movements of against some trees or some any objects, the circling movements of the animals is very common in this disease, and you can distinguish the disease from any other animals because of this circling movement that this is causing by the spongiform encephalopathy. This animal is occurring. The transmission, how the disease is transmitted from one animal to another animal, of course, from the carcass of the scrappy infected sheep. Scrappy is another disease which is caused in the ovines and which is caused in the sheep, which is also spongiform encephalopathy. If the carcass is transmitted through the carcass, the disease can easily be transmitted from one animal to the other animal, and also from the sheep to the bovine is also can be infected because the disease is caused by the proteins, and those proteins are capable of causing the disease of scrappy, as well as they are also capable of causing the disease in the encephalopathy in the bovines. So if the carcasses of the scrappy infected sheep are transmitted, then the disease will also be transmitted very easily from this way. And the sheep byproducts, of course, if the sheep has the disease of the scrappy and its byproducts are transmitted, used to feed the cattle or by any other way, with the meat and the bones are also available for the sheep, and these are used for their byproducts. They are used for as a feed for the cattle. So if they are using by this way or the other way, there is the in contact, any sheep byproducts are in contact with the animals or with the cattle, the disease is also capable of transmitting from one animal to another.